And so, hello everyone. It will be a little bit ironic, but I will tell my speech on English language. You know, I'm from Russia. Now we are in Belarus, but the speech will be in English. So, as the previous speaker said, I'm from Yandex Market. My name is Nikita, and you know, first of all, I want to share with you a little secret about me. You know, I'm lazy. I'm lazy developer. We are developers, so our main job is writing or rewriting code, and sometimes it's real. It could be routine tasks, and by the way, I don't like it. So, and today I will tell you how to not to do it by ourselves, how let computer do it instead of humans. And some description about Yandex Market. As I said, I'm really lazy developer, but Yandex Market is successful web service, large successful web service, and it's hard for us to get benefits from our laziness as a developer. So, as you can see, Yandex Market, we have n billions daily activity users that produces 3,000 requests per second and peak. And for example, if we want to tell about our team, we have more than 100 front-end developers, just imagine it. And as a front-end developer, I write a script. This should count all lines of code that we have, and you know, I got none. It's a real big number. Big int coming soon, so I will update my presentation. As a usual speech, I will start with a problem. And the problem is really global. You know, we have a legacy technology stack at Yandex Market. We have a BEM technology. So, and we have started to write in Yandex Market to React. I think everyone know what is that React. And you know, in that process, we want to fully control it. We want to make any breaking changes. We want to be blind in that path. So basically, we want to save our UI test coverage of our application. We use Selenium, WebDriver IO, etc. to make UI tests. And we don't want to depend on the environment. As you may understand, we have stable testing, and we have environment on each developer branch, so there are a lot of environments. And the most important one thing, we don't want to make changes to the client code, to the code of React components, manually by our developers. That means if you want to write down new React component, you don't need to know and understand that that React component should be tested as a UI element. So we don't want it. Please raise your hands up who really likes to make UI after tests with Selenium and etc. Okay, and still the hands up. So, and who really wants to test this one? So, by the way, I don't want. But this is the real DOM tree of our service. It's really production. And as you can see, we obfuscate class names. But look, we are a step forward. We also obfuscate the HTML tags. As you can see, only div. HTML tag obfuscating is a trend of 2019, as you may understand. By the way, it's not true. It's just an example page. And of course, we care about semantics. So, and as you may understand, the problem from that DOM tree, they can't understand which kind of interface will we get into browser. We don't know, really. Basically, I know the code, React code, that produces with that kind of DOM, but I cannot remember that. So if you don't know, if you don't have knowledge of the code, you can't even understand the interface that will be rendered. So, and a little reminder, you know, the main idea, the main goal of UI tests is to interact with the exact web element of the web interface. So the previous state of our application, we have the next sequence. So we have a BEM block. From the BEM block, we can resolve CSS selector. It's really simple because you can just CSS selector with a class, with the name of BEM block. It's the idea of BEM. And after that, from the CSS selector, you can execute it, get the DOM node, and after that, you can interact with the element of interface. But as I said, we migrated from BEM to React, and now we have React component. And the main problem and main idea is how to make CSS selector from React component. And by the way, looking forward, it's not trivial. So let's take a look on the available tools that we have. So and choose the best one. So first, ID attribute. If you will search Selenium tests introduction or something like that, you will show or you will see article about Selenium and input with username, input with email, input with password. So write down the ID attribute to them as a password username, and you can test it. Yeah, but in our case, it doesn't work. And of course, it's a bad idea, because if we will name every React component with an ID attribute manually, it wouldn't help us. On one web page, we can have many instances of one React component. This is the idea of React, to reuse our components, to make a list of components, so our HTML will be invalid. The next one is XPath. The red string is XPath from the root node, and after that we can get the node in our DOM tree. And do you know what is the idea of XPath? What does it describe? So path, XPath will describe a path in your tree. That's right. So it describes how you can come from the first node to the end node, and this is your path. And look, from the description we have a problem. So XPath will describe DOM node, not the element of the app interface. That means it's really hard to maintain, first of all, because it's non-human readable, and after that it's produce a fragility for our selectors, as you can understand. And if we want to make any UI changes, and we want to do that because we have a lot of A/B tests, it's really unmaintainable. It's really hard for our developers to understand. So the next one, classes. Yeah, again, example. Yeah, we have used it this way when we used BAM technology, but it's a kind of not optimal solution, because classes describe how to style element and know how to find it. But the main idea of our tests is how to find the element and to interact with it. So also it can change in runtime. That means that our JavaScript code can add some kind of modifications to the class list of DOM node. So our change could be break. But for user, it doesn't matter, but our test will be broken. So we lost the single source of truth. And as you may remember from the second, maybe a third slide, our class names is a hash string. So again, it's non-human readable and etc. And in addition, we use the third-party libraries. I am from Yandex Market, so we use libraries of big Yandex, for example, search. And if we want, for example, to update some kind of component library, which we use, we may change the class names, so our selector will be invalid, and we can't easy update that library. Area attributes. It's the first slide when I have a question, why is it a good idea? And that's true. They think that it's the most right way how to answer one question. Give me the element of the web interface. How can I find it on the web page? And also it has a benefit. It would help our users to navigate on our web page at the same time, and it will help our after tests to navigate on the web page to find the element interface. But in real life, we have a time consuming. That means we should spend a lot of time to prepare them, and now we are doing that. But from the beginning, it's really hard to make them right. So, and this is the solution that we have chosen. Data attributes. Why it's good? Because it doesn't affect user experience. So we will add to the DOM node of the React component, and for users it matters nothing. So we can just generate it and it doesn't matter. So at the same time it's under our control. We have the logic to make them on our side, and also they have a possibility to make them for the third-party libraries. And of course it has minuses. For example, it will increase HTML size. And if you don't work with them properly, for example, with React, if you have server-side rendering, it may cause any iteration or cache logic problem browser cache, I mean. And this is how we will solve the problem. I remind you, we have a React component and we want to solve the CSS selector of React component. So, by the way, let's find each React component in our code, find JS6 root element, and add unique data attribute to it. And of course, in real life, we have limitations, so for that algorithm, they have limitations too. And by the way, we want to automate this process. We don't want our developers to make it manually, because it's really hard for human to make unique data attribute. And at the same time, it will be cost our time of our developers, and it's not good really. At the same time, we want to simplify the process of making after tests, so we need a simple interface that we will use in our after test code. And the last one, as I said, the third-party library support. It's so it's the last limitation too. And you know, we will solve it with the AST, as I said on the title of my speech. And do you know what is AST? Who knows? Okay, a lot of people. Okay, let's just search it. Okay, AST is Alcohol Service Technologies. Yeah, it's really oh, so wait. I really like technologies, but not like that. Okay, let's try another search engine. And oh, geez, they know something about me. But look, Yandex search result definitely looks better. You can chat with the company, you can review comments, you even have photos. Oh, no more jokes, okay. What is AST? AST is abstract syntax tree, and this is how you would work with your code base. By the way, your code is a char sequence or a string if you want, and it's really hard to work with them with some kind of offsets and etc. Really hard to manipulate, really hard to match a sequence. But AST provides you a higher level abstraction that allows you to manipulate it like a human. So look, when you're reading your code, you doesn't read it by words, by sequence. You read it as syntax elements. For example, you have if statement, and you understand that it is if statement with some kind of condition, for statement, and etc. You don't read it as a word or by chars. Some kind of stages that we will have. So first of all, we have a code, a string representation of our code. After that, we will parse into a tree. After that, we can transform some kind of make some kind of changes to the tree, and from the new tree we can generate a new code in the string representation and update our code. And now I will advertise you AST because it's really cool. And why is AST? You know, by the way, AST is used and supported by a lot of compiled programming languages. For example, Java, C++, Golang, and etc. And for the front-end developers, so I am front-end developer for the front-end developers from my heart. I added a list of technologies which is really useful for front-end developers. Hope all of you know them. CSS, regular expression, HTML, JSON, and etc. And they also have AST representation and AST specification. And you know, if you want to try that, just visit astexplorer.net. And in real time, in your web browser, you can make AST tree for your syntax from that languages. To be honest, we already used AST, for example, for next tasks. First of all, we build dependency graph of our models in our project, and after that, we can calculate imports. For example, to find which is React component from our UI kit is the most popular, which is unpopular, and we want to refactor it. After that, we can solve that code elimination task. That means we can find modules which is unused, unimported, if you want, and we can just delete them, doesn't matter. Also, we have a static types in our code, and we do it with Flow technology, and we have our own library, Flow to scheme. And we can generate JSON scheme from the flow declarations. That means we can validate some kind of inputs, validate maybe Backend responses, no, by the way, contracts. We can make a contracts from our flow typings, and it's really helpful. And the last one, in Yandex, we really like to make our own rules, our own conventions. And it's really hard to follow them. So we make our own linter rules with the AST. Do you know what TC39 means? Someone? Oh, okay. TC39 is a committee that accepts some kind of proposal to the new specification of JavaScript language. So they make a new standard of JavaScript. And if you want to be a pioneer, if you want to add some new cool, maybe CoffeeScript syntax to JavaScript, you will come to them and ask them, so I want to add some new syntax. They will say, okay, you will wait about 1 year or more, and after that, on the stage 3 of your proposal, we will ask you to make a Babel plugin to support it. As you can see, for example, dynamic import. And to do that, will need AST. I think it's really important. So, and the last one is code modes. Who knows what code modes mean? Oh, cool. So, as an example from the Facebook developers, you may know they deprecated some kind of life cycle methods in React. And we added a code mode to replace them in your own code. That means you can just simply run one line of code and update all of calls, in your code base, with just one line of code. That means if you want to upgrade React, you couldn't do that without rename life cycles. But Facebook developers provide you a tool to do it really fast and without any error and without spend any time. So, and the real life example, we have a library, internal library in Yandex, for example, that provides function foo with an interface with 3 arguments, and in our code we will call them, for example, foo1 to 3 on the first version, and after that the core team of this library updated the version to the next one and changes the interface of the function. Now it gets an object. And we really want to upgrade the library to the second version because it's more efficient, faster, and etc. And it's hyped, for example. And how can we do that? Of course, we can ask our developers to find every foo calls and replace them. But look, you can ask me. I will spend 20 minutes, write this code mode, about 30 lines of codes, and it will update all of calls in your code. And I think it's good. And the last one, the real life story. On the previous job, on previous work, I have a junior developer, and I gave him a task. So just change required to import, ES6 to ES5. It was a time where the pack was introduced and hyped, and we really want to take it to our project. So, and how do you think? How much time did it took him? Okay, 1 day, maybe more. Oh, by the way, the project was large. So 1 day. Okay, 5 days of copy-paste. It was junior developer that used Sublime Text and doesn't know anything about replace, about IDE with refactoring, about regular expression he didn't know at all. And as you understand, we can make a refactor script for that, yes. And we will spend about maybe half of a day or something like that. But remember, require is a dynamic, import is statically. So if you want to change require to the import, it's not a simple task because you must find all of your dynamic require with variables and etc. And it's really hard to upgrade them without a human. But look, doesn't matter are you junior, middle, or senior, you can use 5 to 6 code mode. Just 3 lines of code. 2 of them is npm install, and after that, the fourth is that you should review changes. And as a junior developer, you can ask your colleagues to do that. So these tasks could be solved in maybe 10 minutes, I think. So 5 to 6 code mode, you can update your ES5 code to ES6 code with 3 comments. I think it's cool. Yeah. And now, this is a key moment of my presentation, and now I will tell you about AST on the examples and about AST API. Okay, and the first stage is parse. And the parse describes how you will get your AST from your source code. And today I will tell you about Babel and JS Code Shift, 2 ways I will describe. And as you can see, Babel is a little friend. You can just command him, Babel, parse, and it will help you, I promise you. So look, we will get parser from Babel parse. After that, we can get a code from string, or we can use a fast module of Node.js to read a file to the string. And after that, we will just tell parser parse. As the first argument, provide our code and some kind of options. For example, if we use Flow or TypeScript and etc., we should describe it into options. And let's look at the example. So we have a simple component, React component, 3 lines of code. And how do you think how much lines of code will have AST, deserialized AST? Oh, it's lagging because it has about 300. So we get 100 times much more information about that. And is it really cool? How do you think? So we have 3 lines of code and we get 300. Maybe it's not really useful, but look, we have for every node of our tree, we have information about start, char offset, and end char offset, and we have also information about text formatting, which we'll use for the source maps, and you know, it's large amount of that. Okay, so I will just delete it. We don't need it now. Oh, and we get about 70 lines of code. Let's take a look at this. So they have const word. Do you know what is const? It's a simple variable declaration. Let, the same, and etc. So component. Component is a variable declarator with the name component. Wow. The next one is arrow. And what is arrow? Arrow function expression. Look, it's really easy. It's really simple. So the next one is JS6 element. We have JS6 opening element, JS6 closing element, div. And we have JS6 expression container, as you may see, on curly brackets. And yeah, that was really easy, I think. And so the next stage is traverse. Now we get our tree, and we want to visit some kind of nodes. So this is the traverse stage. And again, I will show you an example from 5.6 code mod, how to make model dot exports to export default from ES6. And this is the JS Code Shift way. You can work with AST like an usual JavaScript array or object. You can call the instance methods, for example, find. Yeah, after that we will say that we want to find assignment expression. With the second part is predicate. We want to find assignment expression with operator, and left part is model exports. And after that, for each of these nodes, we want to update them, to replace them with the new nodes, and we will just call the function. As you can see, like an array in JavaScript. And of course, we have our friend, Babel, and we can tell him that we want to traverse, so Babel traverse. This is the function that will check our node, our predicate, and after that, we want to call traverse as a function. First argument is AST, and after that, we have a visitor descriptor. So visitor basically is a structure pattern in OOP programming that allows you to work with hierarchy structure of classes, of your classes. And if you don't want to describe methods inside your class, you can accept just visitor, accept them, and it's really useful. And in Babel, visitor means that you want to match some kind of nodes, for example, assignment expression. And the visitor will call the callback on these kind of nodes, and it's really useful. Yeah, we want to match assignment expression, and path consists a lot of information that are useful. For example, we have information about current node, about path, about JavaScript scope, lexical scope, and it's really useful. For example, if you want to change required to import. And after that, we will check the node, and apply our function and export to default. And a little under the hood about Babel. You know, Babel Visitor provides us a robust version of iterator, and it used the deep first search. And that means if you will add some kind of nodes or remove some kind of nodes while you're traversing, while you're iterating on your tree, so they will be added to the queue, and your iterator will visit them or wouldn't visit them if you delete them. And it's really important because, as you may remember, we can apply n Babel plugins in our options, and all of them can produce new nodes, can remove nodes, and this is why it works. But look, definitely you don't need the visitor every time you want, because in Babel Visitor and the iteration algorithm is connected, and you can't replace one of it. But if you, for example, want to calculate only imports, as you may remember, it's statically described, and it's the children of the root node in our tree. You can make your own iterator, iterate only children of root tree, and it will be more faster and efficient. You don't need, by the way, DFS in every task. And so, and the next one is manipulate. So we get our tree, we can traverse on it, and now we want to change and replace some values in our nodes. And again, you can use it with instance API. For example, path remove will remove current node and will remove the children. You can replace a current node with a different node. You can replace with a multiple node. But look, of course, if you like JavaScript, you can make it like in JavaScript. So you can rewrite data by reference, for example, or you can mutate it with a kind of some JavaScript API. And again, a simple example. So we have a component, and we want to rename it to super component. And this is how it looks. Yeah, component, we want to change this one. And this is how I will describe the code. So the visitor describes, I want to match variable declarator. After that, I will check the node name. And if the name is component, I will generate new node with a type variable declarator with the identifier supercomponent and the init block the same as the previous node that I take. And after that, I will call path replace with the new node, previous node, and it works. As you may see, we have a component, and after that, we will get supercomponent. Yeah, but can we make it easier? Yeah, of course. You can just rewrite the data of your node, the one line. You don't need to generate a new node sometimes. So, and it also works. And the next one is generation. Generate, the process of generation, a new code, a new source code. And you know, as I said, I'm a lazy developer, and I don't really like React boilerplate. For example, I don't want to write a code, import React from React. You know, in every file you should do that, and it's impossible to do that. It's really routine. So how can we solve this problem? Again, we have a friend Babel. We can ask him to get up types and can generate a new kind of node. We want to generate import declaration with source string literal, with specifier stay, import specifier, default specifier, with local date identifier, with name React. And you know, it works. And as you may see, it's not understandable, but it's really cool to train your English language if you want to improve your pronunciation. And of course it works, but look, we can do it much simpler. As you may remember, our AST parser accepts a string, so also it can accept a template string. That means that we have Babel template, and we can describe our template, import sum from path, and after that generate a new source code with just call function build. I want to build import React from React, that's right, and it will generate. And you know, you don't even need to understand the import declaration, the default specifiers, and etc. And this is the most simple way to do that. So let's return to our problem. I remember we want to find every React component, find the JSX root element, and add a data attribute to it. So we will write down the Babel plugin. So this is how we will describe a visitor. We will match JSX element. After that, we will get opening element from our node and add some kind of data attribute, uniqueness, remember that. So we just don't care, we will generate it like math random, and after that, add it. So as you can see, we have a component, and after that, we have a component with a data attribute, some kind of hash string, and we add it to div exactly. And how do you think? Did we solve the problem? Of course not. We have much more problems. For example, we have a little bit bigger component with 2 divs. We will generate 2 data attributes, but we don't need them. We want to make a B action between component set and data attribute sets. So let's improve it. Yeah, 2 divs, and we generate 2 data attributes. But we don't need that. Okay, we should find the parent node, and if parent node return statement or arrow function expression, only this will show us that JSX is root JSX. So we add the if statement, and it works. As you can see, we have 2 divs, but for this component, we generate only 1 data attribute. So the next one is hash restoring. How much time do I have now? Okay, so hash restoring doesn't matter, and just look. We will add static attribute to our component, and this is how it looks. So we have a div generated the data attribute and add it as a static attribute to get it into runtime. So, and the last one, yeah, interface doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, this is how we want to make an interface for our after-test. We just want to resolve our component to make a CSS selector, and this is how it works. So we have a DOM tree before. As you can see, it's really obfuscated. The next one is obfuscated too, but we have a data attributes, and we know on the build time how to get them, how to resolve them in our after-tests. This is page objects for our after-test before. This is page object after. And as you may see, we just want to import our component that function resolve will resolve our CSS selector, and this is the plain CSS query. Yeah, you can modify it with the CSS. Yeah, they have n problems. For example, with default function export, we can handle it with the code that I wrote. And they have the problem of components composition. As you may see, component 1 doesn't have his own, or component 2 doesn't have its own DOM tree representation. So how can we select it? I don't know. By the way, I know, and they solve all of these problems, and they have an open source solution. The main author is Artur Kinjaev. So tomorrow he will have a speech on the same conference, and I recommend you to visit him. His speech, and if you follow the link, you can find documentation and examples. And yeah, the conclusion, the last one. So you can use AST to resolve your code-based problems if you have a large project. AST is simple to start and hard to masterpiece. And be rational about AST. That means if you have a task, you should make a right way to understand, do you really need optimization of it or not? And the last one, happy developers is happy users. And that's all. Thanks a lot.